Despite claiming it as his best project, Childish Gambino's last album is by far his least popular. And it's not because the music is bad. Thanks to one of the worst album rollouts we've ever seen, as Tyler the Creator says, unless you're a big Gambino fan, you probably forgot he even dropped it. 5 years ago at this time, Childish Gambino, aka Donald Glover, was one of the hottest names in entertainment, and it honestly felt like he had all the momentum in the world.
Donald Glover.
Childish Gambino.
Donald Glover.
Childish Gambino.
Childish Gambino.
Donald Glover.
Childish Gambino.
However, at the height of his music career, Childish Gambino missed a massive opportunity. Just 4 days after a global pandemic was declared, fans were surprised with this potentially final album, 3/15/20, which due to these three main reasons is instead better known as Childish Gambino's Forgotten Album. But as we're about to see, that was his goal from the start.
I just want to do whatever I want. I don't want people to second guess me.
The most clear and obvious reason for Gambino's fourth album, Fumble, is simply the album's packaging. 3/15/20 rejects just about every opportunity to establish an identity. Besides the album title itself named after some random date, which we'll get into in a second, one look at the track list and you'll notice that out of the 12 total songs, only 2 have actual titles. Track number 2, Algorithm, and track 3, Time with Ariana Grande. It's also important to note that despite these huge names like Ariana Grande and 21 Savage, Gambino didn't even list the features either when the album first dropped. But as for the other 10 songs that appear as a bunch of numbers no one will ever remember, they are named after the timestamp they're heard on the album. Even the previously released single Feels Like Summer at track 10 was renamed to 4226, as it appears at the 42-minute and 26-second mark of the project. While like almost everything else about this album, Gambino's never said a word about his reasoning behind the lack of actual titles. By also posting the project to his YouTube as one long 57-minute video, it's clear he wants fans to listen to the album as a full experience. However, in today's age of streaming and music consumption though, that isn't very smart. Not only does naming the songs random numbers make it extremely difficult to remember which song is which, but it also makes them hard to search for and also talk about with your friends. Yo, have you listened to that new Gambino album he dropped?
Nah, I haven't yet, but yeah, I'll check it out though. What's it called again?
3/15/20.
What?
3/15/20.
Okay, what's your favorite song on it?
Probably 3531.
Huh?
Not one song from this album is in Gambino's top 15 most popular songs on Spotify or Apple Music, and it's not because the music is bad. In fact, Forbes actually labeled 3/15/20 as, quote, Donald Glover's masterpiece. But the truth is, these unconventional titles made the album less accessible to listeners. I generally try to listen to albums all the way through, but eventually I'll take the songs I like and add them to a playlist. One Reddit user summarizes the way the majority of us listen to music, but I looked at the album and had to start playing like 5 songs and incorrectly guessed each time. I got tired of forgetting which songs I liked and gave up. Just makes it hard for listeners to reference back and replay or to share with other people. I like the album but can't name you one single song. Although Gambino's definitely not the first artist to go with odd titles such as Kendrick Lamar's Untitled and Unmastered for example, even those though are way easier to remember, going from 1 to 10 compared to a bunch of 4-digit timestamps. Despite all 12 official song titles appearing on his website prior to release, Gambino made the artistic decision to instead go with titles that sound like something you'd hear a quarterback call out before a play.
2419! 2419!
Hey, yeah.
However, along with the lack of album titles also came the lack of album artwork. As humans, when we listen to music, we need something visual to attach it to, but all we got with this project was a plain white square. Similar to the Beatles' self-titled 1968 album, this decision once again left many fans confused.
We also have the extremely white cover of this thing too. I do truly wonder what Glover is trying to achieve with this.
Although he obviously decided to ditch them for the final release, we did see these 4 covers posted to his website before being removed, combined to form this panoramic image of a chaotic scene similar to the vibe of This Is America, showing some people jumping from burning buildings while others are taking selfies, some rioting while others happily dancing. This artwork accurately depicted both Donald Glover's world and also the Earth back when 3/15/20 released. With confusing song titles and essentially no artwork combined with a totally botched rollout we're about to see, it's no surprise why many fans forget this album exists. Just 4 days after a global pandemic was declared, Childish Gambino decided to leak his new album for free on the internet. Typically, leaked music is an artist's worst nightmare, and they try everything in their power to prevent songs from leaking. But clearly here, the tables had turned. March 15th, 2020 was a time of uncertainty across the entire planet, and as everyone's life was put on pause, music was the last thing on most people's minds. For this reason, basically no artists were releasing music, let alone one as popular as Donald Glover. Prior to the start of coronavirus, Donald Glover was arguably the most buzzed about name in entertainment. entertainment. On the music side of things, his discography was damn near perfect. After his debut studio album Camp in 2011 came the legendary Because the Internet 2 years later, then followed by his mainstream smash Awaken My Love in 2016, which also included his now 5-time platinum hit Redbone.
I am naturally like petty. Like, Awaken My Love was literally because somebody was like, oh, he can't make a hit. And I was like, oh, not only will I make a hit, I won't make a video for it.
However, it wasn't until 2018 when Gambino would land his first ever Billboard #1 single. The polarizing This Is America and its music video brought even more record success to Childish Gambino, going on to win 4 Grammys including Record of the Year and Song of the Year, becoming the first rap song to ever take home both awards. But although the song and video is themed around the true reality of being black in today's America, interestingly enough, it originally started out as a diss track towards Drake.
The idea for the song started as a joke. To be completely honest, like, This Is America, like, that was all we had. And it started as a Drake diss, to be honest. It's like, I was like, as like a funny way of like doing it, but then I was like, this shit sounds kind of hard though.
Coinciding with the song's release, Gambino would host and perform on SNL before then embarking on his This Is America headlining arena tour in summer of 2018. In addition to also headlining major festivals such as Coachella and Lollapalooza a year later, Gambino's rise to mainstream stardom though went far beyond just the music.
I'm working on something that I think could be really big for me.
Season 1 of Donald Glover's FX television show Atlanta premiered in 2016 to widespread critical acclaim. As the creator of the show, the star of the show, the occasional director, the occasional writer, and the executive producer, Atlanta is not only widely recognized as a top 10 show of the last decade, but has since gone on to win 2 Emmy Awards as well as 2 Golden Globes.
And I really want to thank the Migos, not for being in the show, but for making Bad and Bougie. Like, that's the best song ever. So,
But Atlanta is just one of the many shows and movies Donald Glover's played a role in, from appearing in recent blockbusters such as Spider-Man: Homecoming, the Han Solo Star Wars movie, and voice acting Simba in The New Lion King, to then working on more of his own projects like Guava Island and Swarm, to name a few. In 2019, it was also announced that Gambino was launching a new shoe line with Adidas under the name Donald Glover Presents. And remember that name, as it will be important again here in a second. As we can see clearly at this time, Donald Glover had a lot going on. But with all of this new momentum and popularity, hype for his next album was also increasing by the day. However, as Gambino wrapped up tour in fall of 2019, 2 announcements he made during his shows would not only skyrocket the album's anticipation a million times higher, but also send shockwaves through his entire fan base.
If you're at this show, then you know this is the last Gambino tour ever. I'll see you for the last Gambino album.
Gambino announced that not only was that his final tour, but also that his next album was going to be his last. While some fans held out hope and took this as just one final album under the Childish Gambino moniker, a name he actually came up with thanks to an online Wu-Tang Clan name generator, others instead viewed it as what it was: the fact that we'd be getting one last album from Childish Gambino, even doubling down on his decision at the Golden Globes.
No, I stand by that. I mean, like, I'm really appreciative of this, and I'm still making one project. I'm making another project right now, just, you know, to make, and but I like endings, and I think they're important to progress.
Although a lot of fans claim that he'd be the one to finally overtake Drake as hip-hop's next biggest star, as his cinema career continued to explode, it was becoming clear that his focus on music was dimming. Not to mention he's long considered music more of just a hobby anyway. With all of this considered, fans were expecting one last big firework finale from Childish Gambino and a well-thought-out album he'd spent the last 3 years working on. However, what came next was the complete opposite. Despite zero announcement from Gambino, his diehard fanbase quickly noticed that a new collection of songs were now streaming on his website, and as people began pouring over to DonaldGloverPresents.com, they were indeed greeted with his new album, playing on a continuous loop at no charge. While Gambino's had some unique ways of rolling out projects in the past, this was probably the strangest, and from a marketing and sales standpoint, easily the worst. But after essentially leaking his new album one random night during the start of quarantine, 12 hours later the website stream was mysteriously removed, and soon replaced with a countdown set to end a week later on March 22nd. When the timer finally ended on that Sunday morning, the album was released onto all streaming platforms, and along with returning back as a continuous stream on his website, a handwritten note was also posted. "I met with an oracle on a friend's recommendation," Gambino begins. "She cleansed me and told me 3 things. Someone would die, I had a star on my head, and to stay close to God. Then someone died and my vision was cleared, but I could not touch them, I felt on my own, which had before always been enough." Interestingly though, the album's title remained 3/15/20, representing representing the date it was first leaked on his website. However, with Gambino going on to drop it on a Sunday, not only is that extremely uncommon in the music industry, but it also played a factor in the album's career low sales. As someone who only uses social media to announce and promote his new projects, still to this day, Donald Glover has not acknowledged this album once on his page. He tried to be all secret and cryptic like a and people forgot and missed out on some really cool shit, said Tyler the Creator back in 2020. While his third album, Awaken My Love, had sold over 100,000 units in its first week and debuted at number 5 on the Billboard charts. Keep in mind too that was before This Is America had dropped, but this follow-up album 3/15/20 would see a 75% decrease in sales and didn't even crack the top 10, peaking at number 13. It definitely didn't help that by releasing it on a Sunday morning, Gambino had already missed out on 2 days of Billboard streams since they begin counting on Fridays when albums usually drop. But even still, only selling 25K as a major artist was a big disappointment. By also not releasing any merch, not selling any physical copies or vinyls, and with 0 music videos for any of the songs, Gambino really dropped the ball on this album's promotion.
I'm not really sure what Donald wants us to do with or think about this project, honestly.
As an artist who had been so creative with his rollouts in the past, including entire short film prefaces, fans were just kinda left confused and not sure what to make of 3/15/20, especially since again expectations were even higher as this was said to be Gambino's final album. Despite there being thousands of different theories out there about the album's meaning due to the fact we've simply been given very little context, by forcing fans to sit with the music, it's as if Gambino wants us to come up with our own conclusions, exactly like he did with This Is America and its controversial music video.
Can you explain what's happening at the end of that video?
No. I feel like it's not really my place. I think it's just something that should just be out there and it's for the people.
However, while this cryptic rollout and 0 promotion was his artistic decision and certainly a unique one, again though it wasn't very smart in terms of maximizing his album's potential. The truth is though, Donald Glover obviously did not care about sales or really anything else besides the music when releasing his 4th album. Along with the chaos of the world having entered a global pandemic, this other big announcement Gambino made at his final show in 2019 also provides us with more context behind his mindset.
I lost my father a couple weeks ago.
Gambino announced that his father, Donald Glover Sr., had passed away in late 2019. As the very supportive dad and Twitter legend he was, his father's death was also the one Gambino wrote about in the album's note, and choosing to list the album as Donald Glover Presents could also be in honor of his late father. I took that approach because I guess that's what I was going through. Gambino finally revealed the Complex last year a little bit about the album. I had just lost my father, I had just had a kid, and I was going through a lot. I was having a lot of different new experiences, and that's what I expressed. The album itself is experimental in sound, but combined with the lack of song titles and messy rollout we just saw, there's no denying his approach significantly held this album back in terms of mainstream attention. I think people are right, it would have garnered a different response. My wife's always been like, if you do punk things, you get punk results. It was definitely a punk thing.
I think the best things just can't be explained.
However, while even Gambino himself admits that he missed the mark with his last album's rollout, he also admits that that may have been his intention from the beginning. I know this sounds lame, but I like that about certain things. Like, people don't know that Prince has a Batman album. This is Prince and he did a whole album for the first Batman, and a lot of people don't even know that. That's cool to me. I secretly love that when you go on my Spotify, it doesn't even come up in major albums. A kid who is just getting into me is able to log on and be like, wait, there's a whole album in here. And I think that's kind of fun. So while it is easy to call Gambino's 4th album a waste in terms of its rollout, its promotion, and its potential given the massive amount of momentum he had going for him, at the end of the day it is art, and there's no rules to go about it. Again, clearly he didn't care about sales or winning awards with this one. The good news is though, for fans, along with the new Childish Gambino feature on Lotto's 2022 track Sunshine, and then recently pictured in the studio with Yeet, in the same tweet that Gambino labels 3/15/20 as his best project, he also states that his next one will be the biggest by far. The only question is now how to go about releasing it better.
I'm making a lot of music. I really love doing it. I've made a bunch of it. It's just really about how to experience it at this point.
I'm making music right now. I love it. I'm actually working. I'm in the studio, but I've just been making it for fun for right now. But soon something will happen. I promise. Something will happen.
Compared to the rest of Childish Gambino's discography, 3/15/20 will forever be remembered for its odd packaging and release rather than the music itself. However, while the album was by no means the firework finale many fans were hoping for, 3/15/20 remains yet another testament to the creative mind of Donald Glover.